Well, hello and welcome to this live telephone town hall meeting with Congressman Tom Malinowski. We've got him on the line and we're dialing out to tens of thousands of your neighbors in New Jersey's 7th Congressional District right now. We'll be getting started with our live forum in just a couple minutes. Over the next few minutes, I'll tell you how you can participate in this live forum. Then I'll hand it over to your congressman so that he can provide you with some updates before we go into Q&A. Again, for those of you just joining, welcome to this live telephone town hall meeting with Congressman Tom Malinowski. This call is an opportunity for residents of the 7th Congressional District to ask questions, share their concerns, and get updates on the latest from Congress. Now, if you need any assistance with a federal agency, including issues related to Social Security, Medicare, veterans benefits, IRS, travel and immigration paperwork, or if you're seeking assistance securing your unemployment benefits, our office may be able to help. So if you need that assistance, I'm going to give you an email address here that you can write down if you need to reach out for constituent assistance, and I'll repeat it several times throughout this call. So if you don't have a pen and paper now, grab a pen and paper a little bit later, and I'll be sure to repeat this information. So if you need constituent assistance, you can email nj07.casework@mail.house.gov. Again, if you need constituent assistance, you can email nj07.casework@mail.house.gov. And make sure you email the details of your situation, and a member of the congressman's staff will reach out to you. And again, I will repeat that information a little bit later in the call. You may have questions on the next stimulus package, legislative priorities in Congress, infrastructure improvements, anything else that's happening in New Jersey or in District 7 in general. We're here to answer those questions tonight. So again, we're going to get some updates from the congressman in just a moment, and then we'll be taking your questions in the live audience from District 7. So if you have a question you'd like to submit on the topics I mentioned or any topics that you're concerned about, press 0. Speak to an operator, and they can take down some notes. You can either ask your question live, or when you press 0 to submit that question, you can let your operator know that you prefer to have me read your question over the air instead. Whatever's more comfortable for you is fine with us. So again, you press 0 to submit a question for the live Q&A that will start after we get some updates from the congressman, and we'll be taking your questions live. If you're not comfortable asking your question live, you should still press 0, still submit it to an operator, and then you can just let them know if you want me to read your question over the air instead. Whatever's better for you, we're happy to accommodate. Now, if you would like to get email updates from Congressman Malinowski's office, you can also press 7 on your phone at any time to give your email address to an operator. We'll keep you updated electronically moving forward. So once more, we're just about to get started with our forum. We'll hear some updates from Congressman Malinowski. Then we'll take some questions from our live audience. If you have a question to submit for Q&A, press 0. If you would like to get email updates from the congressman, press 7, and we'll keep you updated moving forward. Let's go ahead and get started with our live forum now with Congressman Tom Malinowski in New Jersey District 7. I'll turn it over to your congressman now for some updates. Go ahead, please, Representative.
Thank you so much, and thanks everybody for joining this evening. I want to just start with a few reflections about where we are at this moment of transition in our country, and focus in particular on the work we'll be doing in Congress literally in the next few days on the COVID crisis. Obviously, as we gather this evening, we've all been through a lot in the last year. Hopefully, we are entering the final weeks and months of this terrible crisis. But we know that in just a year, we have lost 500,000 American lives, more than World War I, World War II, Vietnam War combined. And we do need to think about that. As President Biden said a few days ago, I think he was very, very right. We shouldn't be numb to it. We need to visualize the scale of this loss and remember everybody and draw the right lessons from what we have lost. And I think the most important lesson, the lesson that I take away from this is that government matters, leadership matters in this country, in our state, in our communities. We disparage government sometimes, we can be cynical about it, but it can make the difference between life or death. Every country got hit hard by COVID, but the United States got hit particularly hard per capita, per population. We lost twice as many people as Germany, 3 times as many people as Canada, 50 times as many people as Australia. All of these countries, they're all wealthy countries, they're all connected to China, where this virus started. The difference lies in how effectively and how swiftly our governments responded at the federal level and the state level all over this country. And even within the United States, we see differences among states. New Jersey got hit so hard at the beginning, and we're doing much better than a lot of other parts of America right now because we were honest about what COVID was, and we made the sacrifices personally and as a community that needed to be made. So we see the difference that government can make, for better or for worse. We saw it in Texas a few days ago when that horrible storm, that ice storm, hit. And let's face it, state leaders there had not made wise decisions over the last decade about how to regulate, how to run their energy industry. And we saw, again, good government means something as basic as children get to be warm in their homes at night. Bad government means that people freeze to death. That is the difference. Now, in Washington, we are in a moment of transition. And for me, it's not so much Republican versus Democrat, liberal versus conservative, right, left. It's a transition to a government in which people are going to work every single morning feeling a sense of responsibility to help others, to help the country, putting others ahead of themselves. We still have a lot of dumb partisan politics. I deal with it every single day in the Congress. But there is a spirit of responsible leadership coming back. And we're about to face, and I think pass, the most important test of responsible leadership in this crisis, and that is getting more relief out to the American people that will hopefully get us through the end of COVID and onto the recovery that our economy needs. Tomorrow, in all likelihood by the end of tomorrow, we're going to pass a version of President Biden's American Rescue Plan in the House of Representatives. I'm sure you've all read and heard a lot about this bill. We'll talk about it in more detail, I'm sure, in the Q&A. But basically, this is a bill that helps us open up schools faster, gets the vaccine out more rapidly to people who need it, provides help to folks who are still unemployed because of the COVID crisis, gets the direct payments up to $2,000 per person. Really important to me, funds state and local and county government. We desperately need that in New Jersey so that we can keep the same level of services without our property taxes going up over the next couple of years. It helps out our restaurants. It helps renters. Across the board, this is going to keep us afloat until we all get that shot in the arm that enables us to begin our normal lives again. This is a big bill. It is an expensive bill, but there is almost unanimous consent among the experts and the economists that if we don't do this, we're going to have high levels of unemployment in America probably for the next 4 or 5 years. If we do it, we're going to basically have a full economic recovery in the United States by the end of this year, by the end of 2021. I think that's worth it. I think that is worth investing this money in, and so I'm going to be proud tomorrow to vote for this bill. We're going to send it to the Senate, where I'm confident this time we're actually going to get it done and onto the president's desk, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, so that help can start going out to the people who need it. So with that, I want to turn to your questions. Lots of other issues on the table. Infrastructure. We're going to get the Gateway Tunnel approved, I'm pretty confident, this year. A lot of work to be done on voting rights, on gun violence, on protecting the environment, foreign policy, fiscal policy. But the first thing is we've got to crush this pandemic, get the economy back, and I'm confident we'll be taking the steps that are necessary to do that shortly. So thanks, and over to our guests to begin the questions.
Thank you so much, Congressman, and thank you to District 7 for joining us for this live phone forum where you've got lots of questions already lined up. And a quick reminder that if you'd like to get your email updates from Congressman Malinowski's office, press 7 on your phone. Speak to an operator, give them your email address so that he can keep you updated moving forward. So 7 for email address updates. And we're going to go to our first live question from Frank in Cranford. Hey, Frank, thanks for joining us. You're live with the Congressman. Go ahead, please.
Oh,
no.
Thank you for taking my call, Congressman. I'm very concerned about what's going on in our country right now with regard to what appears to be restriction of free speech. It seems as though we've got a very charged political environment, and the monopolistic big tech giants like Facebook and Twitter and all these large companies, including government officials at this time, are really promoting measures that I consider to be a infringement of our constitutional right to free speech. And they're using the excuse that it's misinformation or it's a conspiracy theory. And I don't believe that is proper and consistent with our rights to free speech. So I wanted to know where you stand, having been sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States, with fighting these efforts of political persons that you may not agree with having the right to speak their mind freely in our society.
Thank you for the question. It's a really, really important one, and it's a complicated one, as I'm sure you would agree. I took the oath to protect the Constitution. I've taken it several times in my life, and I take it extremely seriously. And I have been a lifelong, passionate, uncompromising defender of the First Amendment to the Constitution, which prohibits the government of the United States from infringing on our right to say whatever the heck we want, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's offensive or not. We all have the right to say anything that we want in this country, and the government can't stop us. The government can't punish us, sanction us, arrest us, kill us, do anything to impede that. Here's where it gets complicated. These big tech platforms, Facebook, Google, Twitter, etc., they're private companies. So that means the government under the First Amendment cannot tell them to censor your speech or my speech. Congress can't make them do that. President can't make them do that. But by the same token, we cannot force them to allow anybody to speak on their platforms because they're private companies, they're private platforms. Just as you and I could set up a website today, tomorrow, and make our own rules for who we allow on that website, Mark Zuckerberg has the same right to do the same thing with Facebook. And so what they are doing is enforcing their own rules, which are supposed to be clear and transparent. They're supposed to apply to everybody equally. You've never been able to put pornography on Facebook, for example. That's one of their rules, even though the First Amendment says the government can't regulate pornography, but Facebook can, Twitter can. They also have rules about what they consider to be hate speech, what they consider to be incitement of violence, which they have struggled to enforce in ways that are satisfying to anybody in America, whether we're more on the left or more on the right. So, this is the basic principle. Government can't tell Facebook to censor you, but government also can't tell Facebook not to censor you. It's a private company. That's what the First Amendment means to me, and I think most judges, most experts who have looked at this question. What I can promise you is that I will fight like hell to defend the right of every single person in America to have freedom of speech, including people I disagree with. I don't agree with President Trump. He has every right to say whatever he wants. He can get up and give a speech. He can write an article. He can have a rally. The government has no business interfering in with any of that. But at the same time, neither he nor I nor you have freedom of reach. In other words, we don't have a constitutional right to have Facebook or Twitter or any other big tech platform carry our statements and promote them to millions of people around the world, just as we don't have a right to have our own show on MSNBC or Fox News or anything like that. So those are some of the distinctions that I make as I think about this really complicated issue of how do you protect the First Amendment and every American's right to say whatever they please, while at the same time not infringing on the rights of private actors, private companies to set their own rules. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Congressman. Very much appreciate that answer. Thank you, Frank, for our first question and for bringing that topic into our forum tonight. We're going to go right to our next question from Monica Kong, who is live on the line right now. Monica, thank you for joining us. Go ahead with your question, please.
Thank you. Your office actually responded with an email saying that you would look into it, but I'm not so much concerned about myself. My sisters live in Morris County and in Essex County, and we all registered for the COVID vaccine, and they've already gotten their appointments, had their shots, and I can't even seem to get through to a phone call. So I'm very concerned that Warren County is not getting their fair share of the shot or has accessibility like the other counties.
You're not alone. And we have been talking about this to the governor's office. As many of you know, the way this works, the federal government allocates a certain number of vaccines to each state. In New Jersey, that number is limited and will grow, but right now it's still limited. And then the state allocates its distribution to each county, but also to hospitals, to drugstores, to other institutions that then put that shot into our arms. And we've all had a hard time trying to figure out exactly how those allocations are made. And I am concerned about some of the counties in my district, including Warren County, including Hunterdon County, getting their fair share. Even if we're getting our fair share, it's not going to be nearly enough. And the frustrations are still going to be there for now because supply for the country is extremely limited, as I don't need to tell anybody on this call. We have vaccinated about 17% of Americans right now. That's actually more than any country in Europe and any country in Asia. That's the good news. That's the difference that this effort by the federal government has made in the last few weeks. But I know it's still horribly frustrating to get appointments. My 80-year-old mom just got an appointment. She hasn't gotten her shot yet, so I'm feeling this in my own family. So what am I doing? Number one, my main responsibility is to try to make sure that we provide the resources needed to accelerate the supply of vaccine to the states through all these different ways, to the hospitals, to the counties, to the CVSs and Rite Aids. And I think we're going to, we are seeing an increase in supply week by week, and that's going to accelerate further with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine having just been approved. But I'm also having conversations with the governor and his team to make sure that our counties are getting their fair share within New Jersey, and I'm not satisfied that we're there yet.
Thank you so much, Congressman. We appreciate you taking that question on from Monica. Thank you, Monica, for being in our forum. And we're moving right to George in Far Hills up next. George, thanks for waiting. You're live on the line with Congressman Malinowski. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my call. I'm a physician in Far Hills, and I certainly support free speech, as the congressman outlined his thoughts on it earlier. But certainly I think we all would agree that free speech was not in play in the ravaging attack on the Capitol on January 6th. And I'm wondering what you're doing, Congressman, to support the notion and now talked about idea of an independent commission, not only of politicians, but of experts in the many areas that interfaced with that event, to look into what happened in detail and certainly to make sure it never happens again.
Thanks for the question. I support it very, very strongly. Obviously, I was there on January 6th. I was in the House chamber when the mob attacked the Capitol building, something that none of us thought was possible in this country. To have a mob of hundreds of people storming through the Capitol building of the United States, summoned, unfortunately, by the then leader of our country, beating a police officer to death, attacking dozens of others. We've had 2 officers who took their own lives after that horrible event. Another maybe losing an eye. We think about them every single day because they fought so hard to protect us with very little support and protection of their own. I'm absolutely determined that we never allow such a travesty to happen in this country again, and that we have respect for the rule of law. So some of that is about holding leaders accountable, and we have that process in the House and Senate. But just as important is making sure that we understand the full origins of that event, that we understand how these extremist groups have arisen in our country, that we understand better how federal law enforcement and all of the agencies of our government at state and local level can work to make sure that organizations and people who are bent on using violence to achieve their political ends are effectively countered. So we will, among other things, have an independent commission. There's a debate about how it should be organized, about its composition. My view is that this should be a commission largely of experts, not of politicians, that it should be seen as nonpartisan by the American people, because we had our debate in the Congress. We need to have a consensus within the United States among the American people, whether we are Democrats or Republicans, that what happened was wrong, that it was completely outside the mainstream, and that there needs to be an effective societal and governmental response.
Thank you once again for the answer, Congressman. And George, thank you for being a part of our forum and for your question tonight. We're going to go to our next one. We've got, Margaret waiting here next from Westfield. Hey, Margaret, thank you for waiting. You're live on the line with Congressman Malinowski.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for taking my call. My concern is about the teachers receiving the vaccine in New Jersey. I know that there's a shortage. I happen to be a retired teacher, so it's not affecting me, but I have many friends. I have a daughter and a son-in-law who have been going into the building, into school in New Jersey before Thanksgiving. The only time they're not in the classroom is if they get quarantined because somebody in the building has had the COVID they've been in contact with. My concern is I don't understand why they expect them to be in the classroom and yet they cannot have the vaccine, why they're not a priority. They are first-line workers. I'm just wondering when they're going to be able to receive it. I don't understand why Governor Murphy hasn't, made them a priority. I know some of the districts, they're teaching remotely, but there are many who are going into the building, having contact with students and other staff and members, teachers. President Biden had mentioned on his, last Tuesday, his town hall, that possibly the federal government could send specific vaccines for the teachers, make them a priority. Do you know when New Jersey teachers are going to be able to receive the vaccine? I know there's a lot of New York teachers who have received them who are teaching remotely.
Thank you. It's a really, really important question. Look, I'll tell you what I think, and I've been pretty outspoken about this. I think it is a tragedy that that our kids are not going to school in person. It's hard on them. It's hard on their parents. I worry about public school kids falling behind private school kids. Private schools, in many cases, have the resources to be able to afford in-person instruction. Hello. Hi. I'm sorry. I'm back. I think I was cut off for a second. So I was saying I think this is really a crisis, and there are two things that need to happen to get our kids back into school safely. Number one, we do need more resources for the public schools in particular, so that they can expand classrooms, so that they can get kids spaced out more. More school buses, so the kids are more spaced out on the way to school. Greater efforts to improve ventilation systems in schools. All that stuff costs money, and that's where Congress can help, and that's why we are providing all of these resources in the bill that we're going to pass tomorrow. But the second point is the one that you raised, and that is that we need to get teachers and other school personnel vaccinated, and I have been urging this. Along with Representative Josh Gottheimer, also from New Jersey, have written to the CDC. We've been pressing them to issue new guidance that puts teachers ahead of further up the line than they have been thus far. I think teachers are like firefighters. I think they are like police officers. Some of them may be young and healthy, but they provide an absolutely essential service to our society, to our kids, that they cannot provide effectively online month after month after month. They have to do it in person to do it effectively for our kids, and that requires taking a risk. And so, yeah, I want to get the teachers vaccinated now. And this is state level decision, as you know, but what I hope that we would do is just set aside a few days at the mega sites or in some way where we just do teachers for a few days, get it done, so that combined with the money that's coming down from the federal government, we can get our kids back into class and do it safely for the kids, the parents, and the teachers.
Thank you very much again, Congressman. And thank you, Margaret. Appreciate you being a part of our forum. Thanks for your question from Westfield. Let's go to Dennis up next in Summit. And Dennis, we've got you live. Go ahead, please, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Congressman, and thank you for these very informative town hall sessions. I think they're fantastic. As a 38-year Postal Service employee, I'm extremely concerned. Fortunately, I was able to retire about a year and a half ago, but I still have a lot of folks that I'm familiar with and friendly with that are still employees of the organization. And I was wondering what your position is with the postal relief package that is hopefully on its way through the House, and what your opinions are of it, and how you view the Postal Service as a whole entity and the service it provides to the nation.
Thank you. I am a huge supporter of the Postal Service. It is rightly one of the most beloved parts of the federal government, going back to the foundation of our country, and so much has changed in over 200 years, and yet it is still something that we rely on. Our economy relies on it. Our small businesses rely on it to be able to deliver packages to people. Seniors and veterans rely on the Postal Service to get their medicines. It is absolutely outrageous what this guy, Louis DeJoy, the Postmaster General, has been doing. He wants to turn the Postal Service into a business. It is not a business. It is a service. It is designed actually to pay for itself, and it has paid for itself, but it is still a service that is supposed to take care of people first rather than focus on profit. So the relief package for the Postal Service, which is needed not because the post office loses money on delivering things, but because of some really bad legislation Congress passed about 15 years ago relating to the Postal Service's pension system. We will pass that. I'm absolutely confident of that, given the new configuration in the House and Senate and the support of President Biden. And I also think we got to get rid of this Postmaster General. He can't be fired under the law as it's written, but just a couple of days ago, he can't be fired by the president or by the Congress directly, but just a few days ago, President Biden appointed 3 new members to the Postal Service Board of Governors, filling some vacancies that have been there for a while. And I think there now may be a majority on the Postal Service Board to get rid of him. If somehow that doesn't work, then I think Congress is going to have to look at legislation to diminish his powers or to otherwise counter the changes that he has been making in the Postal Service that are driving all of us crazy. Thank you for raising that.
Yeah, very much appreciate you, Dennis. Thanks for the work you've done, and thank you for being a part of our forum today. We're going to go to Zach in Cranford for our next question here. And Zach, we've got you live. Go ahead with your question, please, sir.
Yeah, so I have a 1A and a 1B as far as infrastructure. 1A would be the national infrastructure. 1B would be specifically the Gateway Tunnel. And then my second question would be in reference directly to the SALT tax repeal.
Thanks so much. So I'll start with 1B, the Gateway Tunnel. We had a fight over that the last couple of years because the former president was dead set against it, as you know, the whole Gateway project. I'm on the Transportation Committee, so I fought the last administration on this. We made some progress. We got approval for Stage 1 of Gateway, which is the Portal Bridge. That was approved and funded last year, so we will have work beginning on the Portal Bridge this year. And with President Biden in there, I am very confident that we will see the Hudson River Tunnel, the all-important railway tunnel that we desperately need for our economy and quality of life in New Jersey, that will be approved this year. We will still need to provide a lot of funding for that, but there's enough to get the thing started. The big problem has been just getting the administrative approvals from the Department of Transportation in Washington. We have new leadership, and they've already begun to take the steps that I've been asking for the last 2 years. So stay tuned. I will stay vigilant, but Gateway Tunnel is on track, and I'm confident that it will happen. On national infrastructure, when we're done with this COVID relief bill, our next big priority is going to be to pass an infrastructure bill. That is the way to economic recovery. That is the way to create the jobs that have been lost in the last year. In the meantime, we're going to fix a lot of roads and bridges and tunnels and railroads and airports and ports. And we're going to do it in a way, I hope, that speeds up our country's transition to transportation based on clean energy. That's the future anyway. The sooner we get there, the better for America, the better for the planet. And this big infrastructure bill will be a down payment on towards that goal. On the SALT deduction, last year, my first term in the House, I helped get a bill through the House to restore the SALT deduction in full. It was killed in the Senate by Mitch McConnell, who was then the majority leader. We now have a new majority leader in the U.S. Senate, but we still have the filibuster, which makes this still an uncertain proposition. I'm not sure if we can get 60 votes in the Senate on a bill that's just about restoring the SALT deduction. But if at some point this year or next year we move a broader tax reform bill through the Congress, as I think we will have to do at some point to take care of a lot of issues in the tax code, the corporate tax, getting money that corporations have stashed overseas back to the United States, a lot of other things, then that will be our opportunity to get something on SALT as well. What I can tell you is I've gotten the House of Representatives on our side. And when we go into negotiations on any tax bill in the future, we are going to be insisting on a fix to the salt problem for New Jersey. Thanks.
Thank you very much again. Appreciate you, Congressman, and thank you, Zach, for bringing that topic into our forum today. We're going to do a quick review here in just a second. Then we've got Bob in Berkeley Heights. I promised early in the call that I would repeat some information that you might need if you want constituent assistance from Congressman Malinowski's office. So I'm going to repeat that information here. Grab a pen and paper if that's something you need. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, if you need assistance with a federal agency, including issues related to Social Security, Medicare, veterans benefits, IRS, travel and immigration paperwork, or if you're seeking assistance securing your unemployment benefits, our office may be able to help. So please email nj07.casework@mail.house.gov with the details of your situation, and a member of the Congressman's staff will reach out to you. So we cannot guarantee a favorable outcome, but we'll do our absolute best to help you receive a fair and timely response to your problem. So again, if you need assistance with a federal agency, if you're seeking assistance securing unemployment benefits, the office may be able to help. You can email nj07.casework@mail.house.gov. And let's move on to our next question from Bob in Berkeley Heights. Bob, thank you for waiting. You're live with Congressman Malinowski. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Congressman, for taking my question here. I was on the call earlier this week with the members of the IRS who were giving a presentation, and it boggled my mind what I was hearing. I personally have had a very simple question for the IRS with a situation that is so basic. And I have been on hold for 10 total hours to try to get somebody on the phone. But yet, so I am required to meet all of my timelines with the IRS. But yet, by their own admission on the call, they're operating at 20%. C'est la vie. If you have a problem, we'll get to you when we can. Every other part of our society has had to step up during this crisis. But it appears that many of our government agencies, the IRS, locally here, motor vehicles, they don't have to step up. So your opinion of this, and what did you think of that call that happened this week? And is this even acceptable to you?
It's not acceptable to me. You heard my opening pitch about the importance of government. And the IRS is government. The DMV is government. FEMA is government. We set up these agencies to provide services to us. And when they work, well, we usually don't notice, but society works a lot better. And when they don't, we feel the pain. And the last year has exposed all of the weaknesses in this rickety structure of government that we've set up in the United States that we haven't invested enough in over the last, well, quite a few years. Let me ask you this question. When was the last time you heard a politician run for office on a promise that they're going to spend more money on the IRS? It just never happens. And in fact, over the last 20 or 30 years, Congress has been consistently cutting money for the IRS because they're the guys who collect taxes and they're not popular, and nobody's going to reward a politician who runs on that platform. And we are all paying the price for that. In fact, the government is losing money for spending less money on the IRS because it means that they have less capacity to go after corporations that hide their profits and avoid paying taxes that should be being audited. So we lose money as taxpayers. Our personal income taxes are probably higher as a result. And just as important as you just pointed out, when we have an issue with the IRS, it's not exactly user-friendly, even in the best of times, certainly, and certainly now during COVID. So that's not an excuse, and my office is going to bat for a lot of constituents who are having this kind of problem. If you have a a specific issue with the IRS that you want our help with, we will go to bat for you if you haven't asked us already. But the systemic problem is that we've got to invest in agencies like the IRS. We got to make sure that they're staffed in the way that they were 20 or 30 years ago when they worked better, that we invest in the people there, that we don't disparage them as just a bunch of bureaucrats. Who cares about them? Well, we have to care because when these institutions don't function well, we all suffer. Thank you so much for raising that. It's a really important question.
Yeah, thank you again, Congressman. And Bob, if you did need that assistance with a particular case, as I mentioned just a few moments ago, you can email nj07.casework@mail.house.gov for assistance from the Congressman's office. And thank you again for your question for our forum today. We appreciate you. We're going to our next one from Irteza in Roxbury. Hey, Irteza, thank you so much for waiting. You're live with Congressman Malinowski.
Yes, sir. Congressman, I would like to thank you and your staff for helping me out in an immigration matter. Also, I have a question for you. I have been a businessman all my life, and I had a small transportation business. Since last March, my business is completely gone, and I went out to go work for a company. But now I want to start my business again because favorable conditions are, there. So I don't have the capital to restart my business. Financially, I'm drained. I was wondering what kind of federal help or assistance I can get to restart my business.
So did you apply for a PPP loan at any point?
No, I didn't, sir. No, I did not.
Okay. So I think we should probably have a separate conversation with you about this. To see whether that might still be possible, because we have restarted the Paycheck Protection Program, including for small businesses that got the first loan. Many of them can apply for a second one. In your case, it would be a first one. So we'll have to look at the circumstances of your specific situation. So if you're willing to talk to us offline, we'll absolutely see what we can do and whether there are any other programs at the federal or state level that can help you get back on your feet. The goal of all of these programs is to make sure that our businesses, particularly small businesses, come out of this crisis whole, or at least alive, so that the employees that you were paying and the contributions you were making to the community continue. So I'd love a chance to see if we can find some help for you.
Thank you, Congressman. Did you get a chance to write down that email address to get constituent assistance?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Excellent. Great. And you'll have one more opportunity at the end of the forum. You can leave us a voicemail message just by staying on the line. So you might consider doing that at the very end of the call. If you can wait another 15 minutes, we'll give you that opportunity as well. All right. Thank you, Irteza. We appreciate you. Thanks for being on the forum. And we're going to go to our next question from Nancy. She's asked me to read it, so I'll do that. But one quick mention here, about 15 minutes left in our live forum. If you wanted to get email updates from the Congressman's office, you can do that by pressing 7 on your phone right now. We just cleared that queue. So thanks to all of those who already submitted their email address to get updates. And if you haven't already, now's your opportunity again. Press 7 to get email updates from the Congressman. We'll get your email address, and we'll be sure to keep you updated moving forward. We've got Nancy in Glen Gardner, and she's asked me to read her question. She says, I've been trying to get my mother registered for the vaccine online. How much longer will it be, and can we cross county lines? I'll turn that over to you, Congressman.
Thank you. So it's hard for me to advise in an individual case, but you can cross county lines if you go to one of the mega sites, or if you register at one of the drugstores that is offering the vaccine. Where you can't, as far as I know, is with a county-based site. So if you're in Hunterdon County, you would have to use the Hunterdon County the site that Hunterdon County has set up. But we have hospitals, we have drugstores, and then we have these state-run mega sites that serve broader populations of people. The frustrating thing is that there's not a centralized system. This is what is making all of us crazy, that you have to go to 3 or 4 or 5 different websites and register in multiple places to maximize your chances of getting an appointment. And of course, some people are better able to do that than others. And I'm glad that you're helping her. But of course, not everybody has that help. There are cases where we have where my office has helped a person obtain an appointment where it's somebody who is in particular need, a very elderly person who can't use a computer, who doesn't have a son or daughter or a grandchild who's able to do it for them. But in most cases, we just have to register at multiple sites and wait for the answer. What I can tell you is that this is going to get better and better week by week because the supply is increasing week by week. The new Johnson & Johnson vaccine, as that accelerates, that's going to help a tremendous amount. This bill that we are about to pass in Congress is going to help a tremendous amount. It's going to not just ramp up production of the vaccine, but help us hire thousands and thousands of more vaccinators for these sites, provide equipment and PPE and all of the other things that are needed in addition to the vaccine itself to make this operation run. So that's the basic deal. And obviously reach out to our office if you have more specific questions. But the best advice I can give you is just sign up in multiple sites, and things will be getting better in the coming weeks.
Thank you to Nancy, and thank you again, Congressman, for that answer. We're going to go right to Brian in Flemington up next. Hey, Brian, you're live on the line. Go ahead.
Hey there. Thanks for taking questions. Specifically, on the COVID issue, and then more specifically on this ongoing, I think, long-term care facility, senior assisted living type issue. I just want to see what you are willing to do from the federal level. I know the New York issue with the elder communities have been more widely published. We had a huge issue here in New Jersey. Governor Murphy made a direct order to put COVID patients back into these facilities. So I just want to see directly what you are willing to do to prevent those type of orders from happening again. We had 8,000 folks, not one, not 8, not 800, 8,000 of our folks in the state die from that. So what can we do to prevent that? What can you do specifically going forward?
Yeah, it's a fair question, and look, we have to learn the lessons of what happened. We have to understand what happened. We have to draw the right lessons, and we have to put systems in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again, because there will be pandemics in the future, right? We know that. So just yesterday, I introduced a bipartisan bill in the House, along with Senator Menendez and a handful of Republican and Democratic senators in the Senate to establish a national commission on the COVID crisis. We were just talking about a commission on the January 6th attack on the Capitol. We are also looking to set up a commission to look at everything that went right and everything that went wrong in our handling of the COVID crisis, and that absolutely would examine the decisions that were made with regard to the long-term care centers. No one should be satisfied, and we should all be willing to look at those decisions in an objective and nonpartisan way, with the goal of, again, as you say, making sure that the next time we deal with a pandemic, we know what to do. Thank you so much.
Congressman. Yeah, appreciate you. And thank you, Brian. Thanks for being a part of our forum. We're going to go to Stira up next. Thank you for joining us from Hunterdon County. Go ahead, please, Stira.
Hello, Tom. Thank you very much for doing this. I'm very concerned about something I read just today, actually, about legislation that is making its way very handily in Georgia that would limit the possibility of voting very distinctly. What is the possibility that the For the People Act which I think would prevent such legislation from being valid, will be passed in time for the next election, if at all?
Well, we're going to pass it in the House next week. That's the first step. And just backing up here, I think we should be making it as easy and safe for the people of this country to vote in our elections. We did a pretty good job in 2020, despite this terrible pandemic. We had the highest turnout we've ever had, at least in modern American history, because we used a combination of in-person voting and mail voting. We gave people time to vote. We gave people time to count the votes. And we ended up, we had an extraordinarily secure election that was also accessible to everybody who wanted to vote. And it was on both sides. I mean, there was a huge increase in turnout among Democrats, among Republicans, among independents. It was a tremendous success. And there are efforts in some states to try to roll that back by limiting access to vote by mail, by going back to shenanigans we've seen in the past where polling stations are shut down earlier in some communities than in others, based on how the state officials expect that different communities are going to vote. Really outrageous things that we thought we'd left behind in this country after the Civil Rights Movement. So we do have this bill, the For the People Act, which is a bill about protecting our democracy. It's a bill that tries to get dark money out of our politics, that tries to fight corruption in our campaign finance system. It's a bill that strengthens ethics standards for presidents, for members of Congress, for public officials. And it is a bill that tries to protect access to the ballot box for people all across this country. We will pass it in the House. We have at least 50 senators supporting it in the U.S. Senate. So we'll have to deal with the filibuster question there. And I can't tell you what the outcome is going to be, but I can tell you it's a huge priority for me and for many, many of our colleagues. We also have a separate bill called the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. This is a renewal of the Voting Rights Act that passed in 1965 when Dr. King was marching in Selma. The Voting Rights Act, one of the key provisions is that in states that have a history of voter suppression, particularly states like Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi, states in the South, where this is unfortunately part of their history, they were under the supervision of the federal government. They couldn't make changes to their election system that would impact people's right to vote without some degree of federal supervision. And that was taken away by a Supreme Court decision several years ago. And this bill, named after my late and dearly missed colleague John Lewis, restores the fundamental provisions of the Voting Rights Act that we've had since 1965. That bill could get 60 votes or more in the United States Senate. It used to pass, the Voting Rights Act used to pass unanimously. All the Republicans, all the Democrats supported it. These issues have gotten a bit more controversial in the last few years, as we all know. But I think there's enough bipartisan support for the basic principles of the Voting Rights Act that we ought to at least be able to get that done. Thank you so much for raising that.
And thank you again, Congressman. We've got time for another one here. And then, folks, if you don't get your question answered by the time we finish our hour-long forum here, you'll have an opportunity to leave a voicemail message with your question or concern, and I'll leave some contact information to get assistance from the Congressman's office if that's what you need. So we'll give you that opportunity in a moment here. But, Congressman, we've got one more here, and I'm just going to read it to expedite this last question. It's from Sean in New Providence, who asked, is there any update on whether the cap on SALT deductions would be repealed? And that one's from Sean in New Providence.
Hey, Sean. So we talked about this a little while ago, and I'm happy to answer it again because it's so important to so many people in the communities that I represent. SALT deduction has been part of the tax code in America since we had a federal income tax, since the Civil War, actually. Americans have always been able to deduct from our federal tax returns what we pay to our state and local governments. And that was taken away by the 2017 tax bill. I think that was outrageous, and I think it was a deliberate effort to hurt states like New Jersey. So I've been working on this since I got here. I got the House of Representatives to pass a bill in 2019 to restore the SALT deduction. It was not something that the Senate under Mitch McConnell was willing to take up. We've got new leadership in the Senate, so we're definitely going to try again in this term of Congress, this year or next year. Probably our best bet is to try to do it as part of a bigger tax bill, a bigger tax reform bill, because I think a SALT deduction bill all by itself is probably not going to get 60 votes in the U.S. Senate. And as long as we got the filibuster, we're unfortunately still dealing with that 60-vote requirement. So that's my strategy. I'm going to look for an opportunity to attach it to whatever tax legislation we try to move through this place over the next couple of years. And all I can tell you, I will keep fighting on this because this is hurting our communities. It's hurting homeowners. It's hurting families, and we gotta get some relief. So thanks for asking. Keep on asking, and I will keep on doing my best.
Thank you once again, Congressman. And we are out of time here in our live forum, so I'll give the Congressman a moment to offer any closing thoughts in just a second here. But one more reminder that as we wrap up this forum, if you have any unanswered questions, you need any assistance, or if you didn't get a chance to give us your email address to get email updates, stay on the line. You'll have an opportunity to leave a voicemail message, and you can leave your question or concern as well as your name and your phone number. Or if you need email update, just leave your name and your email address. And be sure if it's confusing at all that you spell out that email so we get it right. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Congressman Tom Malinowski to take us to the close.
Thank you so much, everybody, for spending the hour with me. This is something I do as often as I can, because part of my job is to tell you what I'm doing and what I think about things, so that you know how I'm trying to represent the district. This is also where I get my priorities, because the issues that you raise with me, the questions that you ask me, become my priorities. It's one reason why I'm working so hard on the SALT deduction and the Gateway Tunnel and fixing our unemployment system and getting COVID relief, because those are the issues that I hear about when I do town halls. I can't wait to get back to live town halls as I used to do before COVID, but thankfully we're able to meet in this way, and I'm grateful that every time we do it, we have several thousand people on the line asking really excellent questions from every single political point of view. And I appreciate that we can come together and have a serious and substantive conversation on these issues, some of which are difficult and controversial, but where I think we can find common ground, where we can have this kind of conversation. So thank you again. Stay in touch with our office. If you need any help dealing with the IRS or the post office or Social Security or unemployment or any other part of the federal government, please feel free to contact our team, and we will go to bat for you. And I hope you participate in the next one of these that we do. Thanks again so much. Bye-bye.